And folks, welcome back. What a powerful morning we've already experienced, from hearing from James to Charlie to Eric. We've already been flooded with a lot of knowledge that hopefully we're able to apply to our daily rhythms and to our businesses. Now, to say it is an honor to hang out with these folks is an understatement. I've had the opportunity to spend some time with them and get to know them briefly, and I'm really looking forward to this time for a couple of reasons that will be made evident as we unpack the next 45 minutes. But the reason why you are here with us for this panel discussion is the adoption of and the digitization of technology. So in today's digital world, it's becoming more and more commonplace. Words like cloud are so yesterday. If you haven't adopted any cloud technology yet, you might already not even be aware of it. But now we've moved to normalizing concepts using analytics based on AI. Robotics and automation are part of many industrial applications already. So it's not like we're waiting for this next wave. We are already in it. And the purpose of this panel is to help us recognize how immersive and integrative those technologies have already become. Why? Because maybe 10 years ago, it was a cute little hobby in an R&D lab. But today, the application of technology in digitization hits real life, meaning it is relevant to everyday life. And that's why we've gathered these folks with us this morning. We'll begin with Nancy Tischbaum. She's the managing director and executive VP for Sage Canada. Pleasure having you.
Hello.
You're definitely going to have to describe what's in your background, because that view is just gorgeous. So when we get to you, you got to tell us about where you are, because I think that matters. Well, to me, it might matter to me anyways. Marta, the last time we met, you were on, I don't know, a beautiful golf course or a park, or on a nature walk on your way to Montreal or something. I don't know where you were, but I think we're of the same tribe somewhere, because I enjoy the outdoors as well. But this is Marta. She's the director and she owns a product portfolio for online and mobile at Moneris. So huge. FinTech, we all know, is huge, right? It's not only, it's how do you get paid, and just the movement of dollars, and she'll have the opportunity to share a little bit more. Nicole Watts, hey, no disrespect for anybody else on the panel, but she probably gets my thumbs up for the smartest person on the panel. Just her accolades and her achievements. Hey guys, no knock. I'm just celebrating Nicole here. That's all. Nicole she's the head of government relations for PayPal. And that's not small, right? That's actually very large, because she has the ability to lobby and impact and influence policy that affects technology, specifically in the fintech space, but among many other things. And she'll be able to share about that in a moment. And Blake Smith is here with us from Facebook. Blake, my aunts and uncles, thank you. They just want to say thank you, because they don't want to jump on anything else. They want to stay in your world on Facebook. But the neat thing is, I just finished running a campaign for my business, Leverage Consulting, and you know what we use Facebook. So it's for our those who are ahead of us in age, but it's also applicable to us right now in business. So you run the whole gamut, and again, you'll have the opportunity to share a little bit more about what you do. And last and certainly not least, our guitar man himself. You'll never see Mickey show up without showing off his guitars, and it's a fabulous collection that he has. And I always point it out and pick on it, because I might be a little bit jealous. He is the president of Cargo Agency that has represented brands from Mercedes all the way. When you grow to a point where you're able to rep Mercedes from a marketing perspective and be their agency, you've arrived to a degree where larger brands are recognizing you. And that's the type of voices, these are the types of voices that we've collected today to speak on the topic. But before we get started, what I'd like for each of you to do is, in 30 seconds or less, take longer if you need, what does this concept that we're discussing, what does it mean to you, period? And we'll start with Marta, and then Marta, just tag the next person, and that person tag the next person. Let's go for it.
Sure. So digital transformation to me honestly means improving society. It means growing, we're innovating, and I know that sometimes it can be a scary factor and sometimes it can have positive and negatives. And there's obviously any change means that there's going to be some downsides, but at the same time, it means growth, it means innovation, it means disruption, it means small businesses have opportunities to compete and really bring new, really cool things to society to help us move forward. So for me, it's an incredibly exciting topic. And I'm going to go along the screen that I have. So I'm going to tap Nancy.
Perfect. I had to unmute myself. Great answer. It's necessary. It's how we create new tomorrows. It's how we reinvent ourselves. And I'm super happy to be here because I think what's exciting is being able to take some of the learnings that we're almost seeing big organizations innovating, and now they're coming to the fingertips of the small business. And so being here to be able to share that with all these wonderful entrepreneurs and small business owners is, which is why I thought to be here. So thank you for having me.
And Nicole.
Sure. I mean, I think Nancy and Marta kind of summed it up perfectly. I don't know, there's much more I could add to that, but I think it's a really fantastic opportunity. And for small businesses, it's meeting consumers where they are now. I mean, everybody's moved online, so it's a world of opportunity to reach new markets, new people. So may not necessarily have bumped into your bricks and mortar on Main Street, and now you're opening up 365 days of business opportunity around the world. So I think it's a really exciting time for small businesses and consumers. If I'm going to tag somebody, I'm just going across the screen. I'll go to Blake.
Awesome, thank you. I mean, I think everything has pretty much been covered, but I think I want to speak to the Canadian factor. So it's nice to see kind of this come to life from a Canadian lens. I think, given that I work for obviously a US-based organization, it's so great to give back to the local community and again, meet consumers where they are and meet entrepreneurs where they are. So really, really excited about how this is coming full force, not just around the world, but Canada is a major contributor to this transformation and couldn't be more proud. And I will go to Mickey.
Thanks, Blake. Yeah, I mean, you guys did a great job summarizing it. In my opinion, the way we view this era now is what we call the great reinvention. And we really believe that these are going to be the drivers of all the things new. If we look back to what we got out of the Great Recession of 2008, the innovation was also a driver, but this time it's like times 10. So it's a required thing. I think everybody kind of said it's a must. If we don't grow, we sort of slow down and we die almost like a shark. So really, at the end of the day, it's really reinventing ourselves, and small businesses are definitely going to lead the charge in this going forward. So exciting times ahead for sure. Yeah.
Fantastic. And just to summarize what you all said, I think it was powerful. The concept of bringing technology to your fingertips, Nancy. So it's not just sitting in a Godhead somewhere, it's actually rolling down to the ends of the fingertips of small businesses. I think that concept alone is fantastic. Now, here's the challenge. Our lives have been disrupted since, I guess February last year, right? And then Marta says, let's disrupt things. Let's be a disruptor. Wait, nobody likes to be disrupted. You know, you get your rhythm, you just want to go forward. And then Marta uses, oh, let's disrupt things. I'm gonna pick on that in a second, because if you don't disrupt, you get disrupted. So you better be ahead of the curve. And so I love what you said there. But starting off with Mickey, you know, there's obviously challenges to implementing digital transformation in businesses. What are your thoughts about the challenges that are represented, but then also, how do you overcome them? And if you slow down on that shark and you don't get the oxygen in your gills, how do you keep on moving forward when there's just this opposition or challenge? How do you stop? How do you make sure the shark doesn't slow down to keep the oxygen in the gills?
So let me give you a perspective of 1,000 voices. How about that, Shiraz? So we recently finished our inaugural large 2021 State of SMB study. So we talked to 1,000 small business owners, and this was one of the questions that we asked. We said, so what sort of challenges are you seeing? Why is digital transformation really difficult? And 33% said it's too expensive. 30% said they're afraid of fraud, cybersecurity challenges. 29% said, and these are, by the way, their main concerns. They said that they don't know where to start, and nearly just as much said, we're kind of afraid of the learning curve kind of going forward. So when we look back at that, and these are all legitimate concerns, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of the small businesses that might be tuning into this are feeling the same way. I mean, if we look at the expense side of things, for sure, I think when we look at the landscape of what's out there, it all seems like it's completely unattainable. But in reality is that you can start small. You don't have to think about how do I roll in AI into my business. How about just a productivity measure? How about a new accounting software that's going to give you that productivity for actually a fairly low investment, e-commerce. So I think there's a lot of ways to start small and keep that sort of challenge kind of contained. And a lot of times we talk about, look for value. Don't look at the price, because I think it goes beyond the price. It's about the experience. What does the product, the service look like, not only when you buy it, but also after you buy it, right? Kind of going through that whole experience. When we think about cybersecurity, that's a legitimate concern. And I think, we often look, and we're a small business ourselves, and there is a lot of times where things happen on the inside. So you got to educate your teams. You got to give them a sense of why cybersecurity is important. Don't let that data flow out of the organization. So that's first and foremost. And secondly, I would say that pretty much all the products out there, and I think all the brands represented here today, I mean, cybersecurity is embedded into the backbone of all these products. And I think there's a lot of that small businesses need to just educate themselves on. It might not be as scary as they believe it is, but a lot of it is really sort of in their own realm. And then let me just touch on the last point about not knowing where to start and not having this or being afraid of this learning curve. I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of tremendous knowledge out there already. But I think it is an opportunity for all of us here, for brands, for associations, for government entities to really start to get into the position of educating what digital transformation is all about. Because by the way, out of those 1,000 people that we talked to, 82% they said they need help with digital transformation. Out of those 82, 26% said they need immense help. So I think there is a cry for help for that. And I think we can all really sort of rally together to show what that transition looked like, to show that reinvention is not as scary as it may be. Because the reality is a lot of them are going to go after it anyway, right? So I think that's kind of the realm that I wanted to give you a sense of, basically 1,000 voices out there as to what some of these challenges might be for them.
Thank you, Mickey. And folks, you see why we gathered this group of people for this panel. It's not waxing poetic and sounding smart. There's depth to what they're communicating. They know what they're talking about from their experiences and taking the time to research and understand what is really happening. And if you are counted in that 26% where you might be paralyzed by a measure of fear to saying, uh-oh, what do I do? Look, there's 5 organizations represented here. You may not be able to reach them directly, but I'm certain there's people on their team that you can reach out and have conversations with. So yes, I'm volunteering all of them. And there are whole organizations and their neighbors. Reach out. There's help everywhere. We're here. James Meddings was on the call earlier from FedDev. They're here. If you are in that 26% and you feel a bit handcuffed, please reach out. There's people that are willing to help out. And with that, Marta, how can we help? Like, what should people look for? What are, for example, 3 success factors that companies deploying digital transformation can mark or look to?
Okay, so I feel like Mickey actually took all of my talking points right there, because that was incredibly brilliantly wrapped up. But I'm going to kind of build on what he said. So right off the bat, he mentioned ask the questions, right? Do your research. So that right there also builds on what you just said, Shiraz. So There are resources out there. There seems to be a misconception, and I think Mickey's poll also kind of showed some of the mindset tends to be that digital transformation is not for small business. It's too expensive. It's too hard. It's not attainable. That it's really more of a monopoly of the big business. But that's completely not true. Digital transformation can be small changes. It can be small incremental things that you could do just to cater to your customers. You don't have to cater to everybody. Cater to who you want to cater to. Right? So that's your goal. So when you're doing your research, do incredibly thorough research, because you really want to plan, where do you want to get to and what do you actually want to achieve for your customers? Do you want to maybe make their shopping process a little easier? Do you want to market to them a little bit better? Do you want to connect with them a little bit better? Do you want to drive traffic to your physical store, right? So it could be digital campaigns trying to drive to physical locations. Whatever that is, whatever that goal is, that's what you're planning for. So when you're doing your research, reach out to all these companies, right? Like Mickey mentioned, the resources are out there. A lot of them are free. They're completely available resources, and people are willing to share information, but you got to ask the questions. So that's really step one. So step two is build your plan, right? Set your goal. Where is it that you want to get to, and how are you going to get there? There are companies across the board that will help you with all of this. So it doesn't have to be a massively expensive endeavor. You can partner for all of this. You don't have to have a massive technology division building AI software, in your office. You can essentially partner with somebody who's already done it. There's startups, there's innovators. When we're talking, and you kind of hit on the word disruptors, there's startups in all of these spaces. There are disruptors in all of these spaces, but you want to make sure that whoever you're going to partner with, make sure that they're reputable, right? They're secure. They are also building on incredibly secure foundations and platforms, which kind of brings up the last point, and Mickey hit it as well: fraud protection. You want to change, but you're changing your business model. So every incremental change that you make to your business model, let's say you're introducing online shopping, you're introducing curbside pickup, you're introducing the way that you market to your customers, you're collecting additional information, whatever it is that you're changing for your business, doesn't matter. You also want to make sure that you're protecting yourself. So you'd make sure that you protect your physical presence, right? You'd have security, you'd have a gate on your front door, and you'd have a gate on your store. You're not going to leave it open in the middle of the night for people to walk in. Make sure you do the same when you're doing your digital transformation. And again, this doesn't mean that it has to be massively expensive. It doesn't have to be incredibly massively difficult. You just have to make sure to ask the questions and find the partners that will help you there. But just don't forget that, yes, change, but yes, make sure that you plan to protect yourself, and cybersecurity, fraud protection, etc. You want to prepare to make sure that those wonderful changes that you make to drive additional customers don't result in massive fraud losses. So those are my 3 points.
Thank you, Marta.
You're welcome.
Yesterday, we had the Honorable Mary Ng join us yesterday, and she used a phrase that I'm giving her credit for it only because I've never heard anyone else say it, but you guys are probably familiar with it. Moving from bricks to clicks, and the idea of adding clicks to your bricks, right? So brick and mortar, we're not trying to destroy it. We're saying, hey, there's a level of, we can up level what we're doing. It's not rip and replace. We're adding to what you are already doing. And Blake, my daughter, so every year we do a purge, right? And so she's like, Dad, can I sell this stuff? Like, yeah, for sure. She, have you heard of Facebook Marketplace?
I have, yes.
Yes, of course you have. And I just wanted to say thank you, because I don't have to give my daughter that much money anymore, because she's making her own dollars selling off all the stuff that we don't use. Right. And so generally people are the enablement that happens with a platform like Facebook is really infinite. It keeps my family connected when we're dispersed and through, through these times. But so in a weird way, I wanted to say thank you in a really weird way. So thank you you saved me a lot of dollars, because my daughter is now making up I just hope she doesn't sell something that I actually want to keep, though. That's my only challenge. But from a societal perspective, you know, your thoughts and, you know, Facebook's position and what you do to transform society's engagement through digital transformation is massive. The connections, I mean, I could go on and on here, but love to hear from you just what the impact that it has on society as we morph and grow in a more of a digital world.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'll touch on it in a few ways. I think there's the consumer lens, as well as obviously the marketer lens, as well as entrepreneur lens. So I think I want to call out human connection is obviously changing dramatically. And there's a quote I read: humans' basic need for interaction hasn't changed at all. It's still there and it'll always be there. But when the outbreak hit, obviously COVID-19, it paused normality. So replacement channels for human connection were quickly found. So obviously that happened, and that happened extremely fast. So it's been a massive learning curve for the world. So a few examples: business conferencing apps were downloaded 62 million times in the third week of March 2020. And that was up 90% year over year, which is obviously a huge change in society. 1 in 5 people across the world turned to online communities as digital became integral for stress management, which wasn't usually the case for digital transformation. Research is showing that people are going to like gaming communities to have human connection they didn't have before. And then 46% of people in North America actually access telehealth services in April 2020, compared to 11% in 2019. So obviously those are just like some staggering results based on the transformation that happened. And obviously that is impacting society at large. But I think what I want to go to is like upskilling. The idea of upskilling has become so important as society is changing in this digital universe. So for consumers, and I'll just highlight kind of the older segment as I think about marketing, and that includes boomers and seniors who spend most of their they have a ton of spending power, but most of it was in traditional means or going into brick and mortar stores. But due to the pandemic, the older generations have had to get online out of necessity, potentially very uncomfortable necessity. And now they're going online to shop. They're using digital payment ecosystems, and it's just because they've realized how convenient it is. And I like an older aunt of mine, she was like she still doesn't have a data plan on her smartphone, but she made her first Amazon purchase during the pandemic. And she was like, this is easy and it feels safe and secure. So I think like society is scared of this change, but I think it's forced a lot of change for the consumer demands of the world. And then as you think about kind of the communities that are forming, and obviously Facebook groups, I'll give an example of. We have over 1.9 billion people on Facebook groups every month, and half of Facebook users are members of 5 or more active groups. So these aren't just like groups that are for brands. These are groups that are gathering information, educating yourself, interacting with others. And I think one group that's really important to call out as a societal change is my sister's a teacher, and she's gone to online groups on Facebook to help transform her teaching ability, because obviously that was disrupted over the last year. So people are connecting with local economies as well, whether it be neighborhood bonds, selling products, as you mentioned, via Facebook Marketplace, but also tackling local challenges. So that's obviously the upskilling necessity of the societal change. And then just quickly on like business owners and entrepreneurs, and obviously entrepreneurs that don't even know they're entrepreneurs yet, because it's that easy to start a business today. I think the biggest thing right now is around education. The development of digital skills is an imperative for today and future generations. And I think if you think of traditional education systems, in today's society, the thought of changing your career is not the norm. And that's what society is changing. If I look at my parents, my dad just retired after 45 years of working at the same company. But the research is showing that a lot of people are going to change their career over time. I have friends that became entrepreneurs in the last year. They didn't think they were going to be entrepreneurs. So I think this digital transformation has really impacted society. And I think the like key terms I would leverage would be 1, upskilling and that openness to being adaptive. 2 would be obviously the idea of training and retraining for your career. And then the big focus, and I think you mentioned this earlier, is around ensuring that this is safe and data secure, to ensure that the digital universe can continue to prosper and be a positive impact in society, not a negative impact.
Thank you, Blake.
I wanted to jump in there and just build on Blake's point. You know, your point about community there, Blake, I think is a really fascinating one in how consumers are choosing to get support. The increase where that's being a preferred choice of a channel is staggering. And so, you know, one takeaway for everyone I would say is go find the communities where your consumer groups are hanging out. Maybe they're talking about your competitors, but there is so much that you can just learn from kind of gate crashing some of them. We have one that we use at Sage, which is for our accountants. And I'm on it all the time, Blake. It's almost my preferred stream now to my friends, which we can talk about that later. Maybe I need some help. But I learned a product gap just recently, and we've already fixed it. And so I also think for small businesses that are on, the power of those communities to know how you can evolve your own products or services that you provide can be absolutely game changing.
Couldn't agree more. I'm looking forward to chatting offline.
Gave you a plug there. It's brilliant. I love it.
Actually, we'd all love to be flies on the wall. Go for it right now. Actually, Nancy, love to hear your thoughts though on adopting digital transformation. You know, what do you see as as future technologies that will drive digital transformation?
You know what, maybe I'll start with the first part around, you know, what are you seeing that's driving that change to start with? We also did because I used to work at Virgin. I used to love it when I could get free study information, you know, like Mickey's one just now. We also did one, we spoke to 800 Canadian voices who are, you know, business decision makers. And there were 3 really cool things that came out of that too, around the rapid digital transformation. I think will help people who are here today also understand the importance of why we all believe in this subject so much. First of all, 76% of businesses will continue to allow for some work from home. That's a game changer for how we all interact with digital systems, or what we would have used in the past on an on-premise type desktop tool. The requirements change quite dramatically now that we're in this remote world for forever. 47% of leaders cited employee burnout through this. And, you know, we need to make the jobs easier for them. Digitalization is a great way to make that happen. And then the third one that we really saw come through was, you know, 33% of businesses have anticipated, you know, a negative impact on their revenue through the rest of this year. So finding some areas where you can invest in digitalization to be able to transform your business, we get really excited from that. So, you know, we're not surprised to hear that people are talking about changing and picking different products, you know, to go for. And I want to touch on one of the things that one of the speakers said earlier about, you know, AI and finding it. And I don't think as a small business, I'd even recommend that you have to go out and find lots of consultants to help you work out your AI strategy. I think picking a few really good technologies to enable your business, the AI will be there. It's fascinating looking at what people are putting in. So I think picking the right systems and tools that you use to be able to enhance your business, you will naturally find AI at your fingertips. So, you know, really making those decisions. And I'm a big believer in fewer better. You know, pick where you want to go, where's competitive advantage for you when it comes to the digitalization. And so, you know, for us looking at our, you know, some of our products, that's our goal. We want to make sure that we put businesses in the driver's seat so that they can deliver on their goals and dreams. And an area I really like to sweat and get under with small businesses is how can we help you take that cumbersome admin, manual administration, completely take it away so that you can spend your time strategizing and interacting with customers. I think that's a really exciting area for people that are here listening to us today to ponder on an investment they might make in the future.
Thank you, Nancy. Now I have to tell all of you that you guys can't see, but the chat is just blowing up. they're really appreciating a lot of the comments that you guys have shared, to the point where our producer, who's sitting right there, he just passed me a note that he'd like us to go. If you're able to stay a little longer past 11, you're more than welcome to stay in chat, just because of the value that folks are receiving from our conversations. So, and they haven't even heard from Nicole yet. So just want to let you guys know that we're going to continue past 11 o'clock, mainly because of the comments that folks are dropping in the chat that we get to receive privately. But let's go to Nicole. Nicole, we've heard so many thoughts already from your co-panelists here. If you can add to that equation, what changes do you feel are actually driving the adoption of digital transformation?
Yeah, thank you. So, I mean, I think there was really great dialogue thus far, and I would only kind of maybe double click on a few things. I mean, the elephant in the room, obviously, is that Canadian SMEs were traditionally slow adopters of e-commerce, and the pandemic pushed them there quickly and pushed the need to digital transformation. I heard somebody say, take them out of their comfort zone. And that was it. I guess we would say online used to be a luxury for small businesses, and now it's a necessity. The other part of that equation is that consumers are online more because of the pandemic, shopping online more, spending more online than they ever did before, and shopping for things that they didn't necessarily traditionally buy online before. So you think about maybe all of our individual shopping habits. I know I never shopped for groceries online before the pandemic. I love going in the store, but then out of necessity and safety, I pivoted, and now I don't know if I could ever go back. I love shopping for groceries online. People are buying home hardwares, everyday essentials. So we've really seen that trend change. So it goes back to the comment that I made at the opening of meeting your customers where they are. So digital is where they are, and that's where our small businesses are going. And I think the Canadian small business marketplace has really stepped up and met that challenge, and we're seeing that in the numbers and the trends. And I think the other part I'll click on a little bit is digital presence allows for small businesses to reach a broader audience. Again, I tipped my hat to it at the start, where you have 365 days of business opportunity, your store's online 24 hours a day, but you're also meeting people outside of your traditional community. I know we've talked at PayPal to various small businesses that we work really closely that have expanded. They're in rural Ontario, but they're selling around the world. They're selling to Europe. So it's opened up that world marketplace. And I know Minister Merrying would talk about the importance of exporting for Canadian small businesses. So I think that's a really important part. And I think, just to summarize, to close off on this thought, is that the appetite is there for e-commerce now more than ever. And I'm really heartened by what I've seen in our Canadian small businesses and the resilience of our entrepreneurs in Canada. I think it's phenomenal how they've navigated this pandemic. And I think that partners like all of us who are represented here today and other commerce platforms play a key part in that. We want to bring our products and our services to small business owners to make their life easier. To Nancy's point, to take away the administrative burden, to try to simplify things like shipping, bring large volume discounts to them. I know at PayPal we can bring shipping discounts to our small businesses. We bring invoicing solutions. So we really go beyond that checkout button that we're known for. And we are really trying to be a hand-in-hand growth partner for our small businesses that we work with. And I think it's a really exciting time. And while we're starting to get back to normal, and I know Nancy in the UK is already feeling a breath of what that freedom feels like, but as that rolls out in Canada, I think that as much as the bricks and mortar will be there and will come back strong, the e-commerce piece is here to stay and will continue to transform.
Thank you, Nicole. And I'm going to throw this out to anyone who wants to take it. And if no one does, I'm going to volunteer Mickey. Here's the problem with what you just said, Nicole. Here's the problem that I have. I'm going to be the voice of the 26% who are really afraid, right? I still like to squeeze my fruit. Okay, I'm glad that, you see, I'm comfortable buying a can online, right? Campbell's soup, what? I got like 14,000 cans in I'm good, right? Like, so I'll buy dry goods, canned goods from the grocery store. But there's just something about picking up a melon. Now, of course, if I touch it, I'll put it in my cart. Don't worry, I'm not putting it back, right? But what would you folks say to the people who still are they're still there, where there's nothing wrong with squeezing the fruit. If you eat proverbial, right? Like, I'm not saying literally go and touch all the fruit. That's not what I'm saying. But that was always the rhythm. I grew up watching my parents like shaking this and like, yeah, this is what you got to listen to the seed. I'm like, no, you don't. But that's what they were taught and passed down. Now, we need to pass down a different rhythm. How do we, what would you folks say to people who are still vibing to a different beat or a rhythm that suggests that has become unavailable to us to listen to anymore? There's a new rhythm. Go ahead, Marta.
So the thing is, digital transformation, its intention isn't to force people to change their habits, right? That's not the intention. And you'll never force anybody to change their habits, because why would anybody do that? The intention is to make their lives easier, right? So people will always find whatever changes their life for the better, whatever that is, right? Is your life for the better that you're able to sit at home and buy your groceries online because now you have time to spend with your loved ones and your partner, or take care of other chores? 100%. Some people will find value in that, so they'll take advantage of it. Maybe, for instance, something as little as sitting in your car and paying for your oil and gas while you're sitting in your car, so you don't have to freeze your hands when you're sitting outside. Like small little things like that, that's a change in behavior, and that actually drives people to change their behavior. But for those that are diehards that actually want to go in because they drive pleasure out of that experience, that physical experience, that's not your target market, right? You're not going to be spending your marketing dollars and your digital marketing dollars trying to change their behavior, because they don't really want to, right? They love what it is that they do. But, and I'm not sure who mentioned this earlier, but I think it may have been Nicole, but something as little as we noticed changes in behavior, let's say in certain demographics that loved going into a bank branch. That was their thing. They loved the security. They loved the experience of walking into a branch, having a physical conversation, and cashing their check or pulling out cash from a teller. And now all of a sudden the pandemic hit and they had to go online. Some of them will see how wonderful and this is an easy experience and they can do it and they trust it. But you know that there's going to be a certain percentage that they really just love speaking with that teller. They're going to shift back. Right? So a large proportion is going to keep the habits going, but a certain proportion is going to move back. And this was Nicole's point. Cater your business to your target, cater your experiences also to where your customers actually want to be. And digital doesn't mean physical 100% goes away. We still want our physical interactions, right? Digital is supposed to build on top of it and improve on it, not replace it. So that would be my answer to that.
I would just jump in as well and say I think that's a good perspective too for the customers and how you build your company to the customers. But I would also say if you're a small business and you're just not sure whether you should look at, using PayPal or another type of technology that could help you transform, reach out, because I would love to hook you up with some of my customers that are using our product. I'll find one that's in exactly the same micro vertical and the same vertical that you're in, and start to learn how other people in your industry are using it and be inspired. Because I think when you see how other people have adopted on any of the panelists that are on here, their products, I think you could get a little bit excited and try it.
Yeah, and I think it's not when we think about digital transformation, I know a lot of small businesses believe it's like a switch on off. I go from fully analog to fully digital. It's not about that. It's a journey, right? You start small. You just take a component of your business and you turn that to a digital form. You can still keep very much an analog, personalized feel in what you do, even digitally. So there's a lot of different ways, and I think that might be just kind of the ultimate transition. And I think. And I might have used this example with some of you. This was last year, and I think it was the most fascinating example of digital transformation in a small business. And that is, I have a butcher around the corner who basically, at the end of March, was worried about his business entirely. And then I saw him at the end of April, and he's got a big smile on his face. And I said, "Hey, Ken, you know what? You look fantastically happy." He said, "Listen, I just had the best month ever of my business in 15 years." And I said, "What did you do?" He goes, "I started selling meat online." He's like, "I set up an e-commerce shop and I sell steak online. And I tell you what, I think this is the ultimate way to go." So he has sort of found that there was a channel for him that works now because he loves the community. He's going to keep his brick and mortar store, but now he's got almost 2 revenue channels where he can deliver his product to maybe those that are not from this particular area. So I think that that's a good story in a success story that it worked, and he still gets to keep some of the things that he loves to do, which is basically chit chatting with all the neighbors, on a Saturday morning. So it is a journey, more or less. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really great example. At Facebook, we call it kind of appointment commerce versus discovery commerce. Appointment commerce would have been you have to go to the meat shop to buy that meat on a regular cadence as your grocery, say it's on a Thursday, Friday. But discovery commerce is you have the opportunity to meet new customers. And by going online, you're becoming a discovery platform. You're becoming a discovery brand. And obviously it speaks to kind of his success over the year. So I think it's those are the 2 terminologies we use, is appointment commerce versus discovery commerce. And I think that's a huge paradigm shift that's happening.
So let's stay on that point for a second, Blake, here. Even 10 years ago, if you wanted to open up a business, that's a massive business plan and a huge undertaking to write a 70-page business plan, you got to get your lease together. You got to get, hey, where's the right location, physical location to open up my brick and mortar. You mentioned earlier just the ease of entry into entrepreneurship now. Mm-hmm. How easy is it now to be enabled, from folks like Marta and Nicole and what they represent, and then Nancy will make sure all the numbers get managed properly, and then Mickey, you connect with him, and then he'll help market you, and then you actually create space from a Facebook perspective to enable people's entrepreneurial spirit. Can you speak a little bit more to how the difference from thought to start has shrunk significantly, hasn't it?
Yeah, so I cover more of the D2C e-commerce space for Canada. But for context, there's over 200 million small businesses around the world using our tools. And that doesn't mean spending money on our platform. That means having a Facebook business page. Mm-hmm. And obviously Facebook is a big component of getting the business off the ground and getting discovery of the business. I mean, I am not an expert in the back-end financials of how to get up and running. But when you think about the pandemic, e-commerce has accelerated over 5 years, they're saying. And I think the big call out there is the tools that we're building, whether it be Facebook shops, whether it be our Facebook pages, whether it be groups and marketplace, are becoming those kind of frictionless entries to market. And I think the other call out I would make is that as you think about going online, the biggest challenge for a lot of small, medium business owners is marketing. How do I market my brand? And there's a solution that we've just brought out. It's via our Boost with Facebook program, but you can actually go in, pick your Facebook page, hopefully you've set that up, and they will put together a preliminary marketing plan. It'll help you answer the questions you need to go live. And I think us building tools like that are going to make it even that much easier to go online. It doesn't mean that you're only selling offline. You can have a brick and mortar store via a Facebook page. It's not always just online, but that digital transformation is key. And I think you're going to see continued investment from Facebook as we support that 200 million businesses online.
Thank you. And just before we go to Marta, Nicole wanted to mention this to you. I have a family member who doesn't like being on the water, so we always have to go pontoon boat. Right. So where did I find them? Facebook Marketplace, because I wasn't going to drive up north somewhere to drive around the neighborhood to say who's going to rent a pontoon boat to me. But I was able to find them. And the only way that they take payment is PayPal. It's the only way, because they felt it was the easiest way to receive their payment. But where did I find them? In my living room is where I found them. So it is, obviously, I digress. Nicole, I want to throw this out to you because Marta mentioned this, and I'm going to go to Marta next. It's about finding your community and where are they digitally, finding those groups and then hanging out with them. Blake referenced it, Nancy referenced it. We're all in this same space here, but it's like mapping your path to your objective. Mickey said you don't have to chew the entire elephant. Like, you're gonna get there, but one step at a time. If you were to map your digital transformation journey, what are a couple of things that you're looking at to get from here to there? What does step 1 of 5 look like, or 4 look like? What are some of those markers on that journey as you transform and morph into adding a digital presence to your business?
Yeah, I mean, there's I think a lot of it's been touched on, but if I'll just add to a few aspects, I think obviously I'll hone in and be the PayPal commercial, is you want to have that good partner.
Yes.
Right. You want to have that. So we all represent companies that this is what we do. This is our mission, to support small businesses and bring our products and services that make that digital transformation easier. So you mentioned your friend with the pontoon boat. There is a trust from a payments perspective. There is that trust of, if I'm going to sell my goods and my store in Leaside, and I'm selling to a customer in California, they've maybe stumbled across my page. They're going to check out. If I'm asking for MasterCard, just a credit card, but if I see the PayPal piece, they may be more comfortable, as opposed to just typing in all of their credit card information and exposing that. Where if they can go through a payment processor like PayPal, where we know that that information is treated securely, it gives that customer confidence. So that promotes and helps your brand. And we talked about from fraud protection, that's really critical. I think the other part too is we talked about bricks and mortar, e-commerce, reaching your community. So I think social media, and with Facebook here, obviously it's key, that mapping that journey on social media. So there's Facebook, there's Instagram. The Instagram shop page. So we're all sitting in our living rooms now with more time on our hands on scrolling through social media. When I land on a shop, if I can I really like this piece of jewelry that they're highlighting on their Instagram page, I can just click and add it to my cart and check out seamlessly. That's amazing for me as a customer and for the shop, because it lowers your abandoned cart rate. The more seamless your process can be from click to checkout, the better it is. We talked about fraud protection. I think that's really huge. So I think it comes down to partners, good partners in the ecosystem to help you get there. Trust and security for yourself as a business owner, and making sure your time is well spent and your energy is your passion. I know for me and for PayPal, we talk a lot about, we want to make things easier. So the entrepreneurs, if you're a jewelry maker or you're a clothing designer, that you're spending things on your craft, on honing your creativity, as opposed to stressing about their back-end accounting processes or invoicing or exporting paperwork. Let's try to make that as easy as possible. And I think obviously forums like this are really great for small businesses to hear the tools and resources that are out there, learnings from others. So it's not a simple process. It's not something that you can carve off. But I think that all the opportunities are there and the resources are there. And you just have to, if you need help, ask. I think everybody around the table's willing to help.
Fantastic. And thank you. Marta, I'm going to throw it to you in just a minute. Just want to address a quick question. And Marta, if you could also speak a little bit about what Moneris does as well, please.
Yeah.
The question is, how do you, there's a lack of understanding or expertise when adopting, digital initiatives in organizational structure. I would challenge that question simply because that's what this forum is for. That's what these folks are here for. That's what their teams represent. The help is there if you simply reach out and seek it. There are folks willing to help. So I just wanted to address that question right away, simply because that's what this panel, this event is all about. Marta, if you can tell us a little bit about Moneris as we begin to wrap up.
Sure. But I'm actually going to kind of touch on that question and link together some of the points that you guys heard here. So first off, don't sit back and assume that you don't need to make change, right? Your business needs to keep growing. So everybody needs to keep evolving, but it doesn't have to be, biting off that massive undertaking. This doesn't have to be a complete retransformation of your business. Step one, just have a website. being able to have customers be able to find you, right? That is your very, very first step. Just be capable of being found. You have a digital presence. That's it. That's your first step. So from a Moneris perspective, we'll give you easy online web pages. We can when we were talking about AI tools, Moneris Online, the very, very first entry-level product there is, it's an AI tool that will set up your entire website for you in a span of 2 minutes. Okay, bam, you've got a website. No technical ability, no major costs. You don't need to actually spend a lot of time here. You don't have to hire a bunch of people. You have a website, right? Then figure out what your next steps are. Do you actually want to sell online? Maybe that's your next step, right? You don't even have to start thinking about, how am I going to start going cross-border, cross-country? Am I going to start shipping into other regions? To Mickey's point, maybe that butcher, they're selling just within their community, but it's an online website for somebody to be able to say, you know what, it's 11 p.m. at night. I really want to order this stuff because I want it for a barbecue tomorrow. Something as little as that, you're still catering to your local community, right? Maybe that's how you start out. You start out with your regular customers. Those are the ones that you're familiar with, cater to them, and then you grow from there. So again, at that point, if we're talking to Moneris, we'll give you that website. We'll give you an easy e-commerce platform. You could then grow that e-commerce platform and say, now I actually want to introduce online shopping. Bam, it's built in automatically. You could set up a shopping cart. You could set up an online store and be able to sell. Now I need to figure out logistics. Okay, that e-commerce platform is automatically integrated with a number of logistics companies. They're there to help you and figure out, how do I ship something from downtown Toronto to Leaside versus having to go out to Halifax versus going cross-border or international. Those vendors are already integrated. Next up, you want to integrate it with other platforms, right? Blake mentioned, you want to make sure that you can be found on Instagram, you can be found on Facebook. Those things are automatically already integrated in. So with a click of a button, Moneris Online and other integration e-commerce platforms, they'll automatically expand your business there. So it's not a massive undertaking. We're talking clicks of a button, right? And bam, you've got a presence on Instagram and you've got a shop on Instagram where you can be found. Those are small steps you can take to really transform your business.
Thank you, Marta. And it's those next steps that matter. We're going to let Mickey be the anchor and close us off. But before we do that, Blake, your final thoughts and just, a Facebook position as well.
Yeah, I think Marta, hit the nail on the head. For me, it is a click of a button. And I know it's super scary, especially as a brick and mortar mom and pop shop, possibly in the small, medium business ecosystem, is explore the online solutions. And yes, there are a ton of third-party solutions. There's a ton of first-party solutions, but you've just got to dig in. And as I said, go to facebookbusiness.com and it'll say, create my first marketing plan. And these are clicks of buttons if you have a Facebook page. And again, it's getting over that hump of scare and just really diving in and retraining yourself. Because as I mentioned before, you may have started your career in one way, but obviously maybe you've just become an entrepreneur, and that's a huge retraining in your own mind and in your own model. So that'd be my number one thing. And then just as I said, Facebook has over 200 small, medium businesses on our platform, and we wouldn't be where we are today without the small, medium businesses. So again, I just want to thank everyone for attending. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions that I can. But again, our focus is on the small, medium business population. But again, there's 200 million of them, so I won't be able to answer every question.
That's great. And I just wanted to add to what Marta and Blake were talking about. So in this study that I referenced, the number one digital transformation goal for these businesses was improving their social media presence. So they've all realized it isn't just, to post some cool pictures. What they've realized is these are marketplaces now. These are places where people are trying to find them. These are opportunities to sort of show something that they have that's quite unique. So I think it is important that social isn't what sort of the meaning that it used to have. It's a very different world these days, and that's number one thing that we've found across 1,000 of these individuals and businesses that we talk to in Canada. So Yeah, and I guess if I was to, as the conversation went on, I try to figure out like what would be the three things if somebody asked me, give me three things that you would suggest to someone on a digital transformation perspective. I think the number one thing is always just have a dedicated budget. I think that when a lot of that discussion was I can't afford it, I think it's just you don't have to go spend thousands of dollars. You can go spend a few $100s and start somewhere. So I think having that dedicated budget would be number one. I don't think you have to transition everything. I think actually a blend of the two is actually quite good. You've got some certain things that are you've driven from a digital perspective, and then you keep a bit of that analog feeling still in your business that you may want to have. And then the third one, and I think to me this one is important, and we didn't really touch on it today, but culture is huge. And I think that digital transformation, there has to be this sort of drive from the top of the organization. So if you're a small business owner, even with 10 employees, you got to be the change. You've got to be the one that describes to the employees why we're doing this. Why do we want to go digital? What benefits is going to provide? You may even have individuals in your organization that are already driving that. So maybe you put them in place versus if you're not really comfortable. So to me, a lot of that is really that vision, because a lot of times, and we found this, that with let's call them larger of the small businesses that have been around for a while, there is this fear at the employee level of what will digitalization do to me. I mean, they talk about, oh, if AI comes in, will you need me anymore? And so I think there's a lot of that vision that needs to be created to say that there's truly a benefit for everybody to sort of do that. So those would be kind of the top three things I'd like to.
Wonderful, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. We know that Nancy had to drop off earlier. We want to thank you as well. Nicole, Marta, Blake, Mickey, we'll do this again soon. Thank you for all your thoughts. Thank you for taking the time to prepare. And with all the knowledge that you've dropped on us, there's somebody that will probably need some further support because you started something, you dropped a seed within them. And folks, I want to remind you that these organizations, they are here, right? So if you need that support, please reach out. They're there for you. Thank you all. If you all can just self unmute, turn your cameras off at this point. Just want to let everybody know, if you go to our virtual trade show, floor right now, you can see all of our hand selected vendors that are there, because in the next couple of minutes, if you go to the trade show floor, you'll see a link to hear our next keynote. It is on digital equity. It will be delivered by Duncan St. Clair of Deloitte. Now, Duncan is the elected chair of Deloitte of Canada and Chile. Prior to his election, he was the vice chair whose professional activities focused on major institutional investor clients, global private family businesses, and regional government. Now, the pandemic has illuminated Canada's strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, and risks. The regional disparity that digital equities have created from a geographic perspective, a demographic perspective, and the impact it's had on businesses and people. So we would encourage you to sign on for that coming up next. So go back to the virtual trade floor and you'll find the link, and we'll see you there shortly. Thank you, folks.